Chapter 8, A Slice of Mojo. I hit rock bottom. I bought myself a cheap car just to get away from Coventry. I decided to move to London and live in my car for 6 months, and that's what I did. Until one day I bumped into Jill, a half-caste girl, and her husband Jack, who I knew way back from Coventry many years ago. They had an old house in Holloway Road, and they said I could stay with them for a while. It was really cold in the house, but at least I had a roof over my head. I lived in that basement for about 5 or 6 months. There was an old clapped-out acoustic guitar there, and they said I could use it for busking. At the same time, I was coming down from heroin with shivers and sweats for many weeks. Plus, all my body was aching from coming off the heroin. Busking in London. So, I decided to go out busking every day to keep myself active and work through my aches and pains. So every day I would make my way to the tube station near Hammersmith Odeon to busk there and make enough money for my 20 fags and cups of tea. But at the end of every day, I would make my way to the open market before they closed. They all got to know me at the market, and they would fill up my rucksack with potatoes and all different varieties of vegetables, instead of just chucking them away. I would take them back to Jack and Jill's, and Jill would make a dinner every night. They didn't have much money, so I helped out as much as I could, and they were so grateful. We all lived a little bit better after this. Security job. After my time in London, I felt I needed to go back to work. So I found a security firm in Warwick called Watch, and they gave me a job in Torrington Avenue, Coventry, working nights. My sister lived just up the road in Tanyard Farm Estate, so she put me up for about a month. And my old friend called Stefan lived on the estate, and he put me up for just over a year. He was an addict, but he was a great guy. I was working 14-hour shifts for Watch security and 6 days a week. It was very tiring. After a while, I started using again, and the only way I could carry on with my job was to get a methadone script so I could carry on working. I hit rock bottom. After a year went by, I moved from Stefan's into my own flat in Jardine Crescent. I was still taking methadone, but I wanted to come off. I was so down because I wasn't sleeping. I worked all night, but I just couldn't sleep during the day. So I went to the doctors to tell him my problem, to see if he could put me on sleeping tablets, and told him I would come off the methadone. And he said he would try my way. After a couple of months and feeling really ill and still working, I came off the methadone, but I was still on the sleeping tablets. 2 to 3 months went by, and I'd had enough of not being myself. I wanted the old mojo back. The doctor was still giving me my month's supply of sleeping tablets, 56 in a bottle. I was at breaking point. I'd had enough of my life. So I necked a whole month's supply of tablets to end it all. What happened next was a surprise to me because I woke up 2 days later in a very weird headspace and thinking, I must get away from Coventry. I decided on the spur of the moment to pack my rucksack and get the next train to Pembrokeshire, where a lot of my memories are as a child and teenage years, and holidays with my parents. Plus, my mother was born in Milford Haven. I told no one I was leaving Coventry, not even my parents, and I got on that train and I left. I had no idea where I was going to stay and what would happen to me. I'd just been so down, I think it was the lowest I could ever have gone. I feel like I'm in a lap of the gods' hands to do what they want with me. Better than sleeping rough. I went to see my young cousin Paul in Milford Haven, to see if he knew anyone with a bedsit or flat that I could rent. Paul said, "Sleep here tonight and have dinner with us, and we'll have a look tomorrow." Paul said he knew a landlord that rents rooms out. The following day, Paul phoned him up. The landlord said he had a spare room, so he drove me down and we met the landlord, and he showed me this poky little room with a cracked window with the wind blowing through it. I took the room, because otherwise I would have found myself on the streets. The same day I went to the dole to register and sign on, and they said I'd have to wait 2 weeks for my money. That left me 2 weeks without food. All the money had gone on the train fare to get to Pembrokeshire. One thing I did have was my old collection of coins, which I had to sell to feed myself. A few weeks went by and one of the tenants in the house was leaving. He had the largest room in the house, so I quickly had a word with the landlord to see if I could move in there, and he said yes. Little voice. There was an actor from London renting one of the rooms for 6 weeks. He told me he was in a play at the Torch Theatre in Milford Haven, and he got me a free ticket for the play he was in. The play was called Little Voice, and some years later, it was turned into a film with Michael Caine. After the play finished, he introduced me to all the cast and I went for a drink with them. And what a fantastic night we had.